Hello, coaches. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better Spotlight. Today, we have a fantastic panel episode featuring some of our amazing Coattail graduates and instructors, Ryan Harwood, Diana Beabout, Amy Garrett, and Joel Bevins. In this Spotlight episode, we're talking about the ways that we can make the role of the EdTech coach successful in our schools. In the full-length episode, we also chat about how to define that role, what some of the misconceptions are, and how we can address them. To hear the full episode, subscribe to Coach Better wherever you get your podcasts. This episode is a great insight into the kinds of conversations that the Coattail program inspires. Coattail will empower you to leverage innovative technology-rich learning opportunities in your school setting as a teacher, a coach, or a leader. Registration for our next global cohort opens on the 18th of October and closes on the 14th of November. Find out more and join the waiting list at coattail.com today. Welcome back to another episode of Coach Better. I am super excited to be here with another panel of amazing educators, current, former coaches. Some have been in the position multiple times, but are not currently, but have done it. Some are in leadership roles now. So I'm super excited to talk with all of you about defining the role of a coach. And I think these conversations have come up in a lot of podcast episodes and then also in my conversations with the coach participants, and I know it comes up in Coattail as well. So today we're going to dive a little bit into defining the role of a coach with our panel guests, and I'm going to ask each of you to introduce yourselves. I will start with Ryan. Can you please tell us a little bit about where you are now, maybe if relevant, where you have been?
All right. I'm Ryan. I am at the American Community School in Amman, Jordan, where I am currently a design teacher, a middle school design teacher. I previously was at Lincoln Community School in Accra, Ghana, where I spent a couple of years as a technology coach. And then this year I've had a role as a tech support teacher, but not actually a coach. So there were maybe we'll get into that at some point.
Yeah, I was thinking we'll probably unpack that as we go on this call.
Yeah.
Awesome. Amy, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, I'm Amy Garrett. I am in Hong Kong. I'm an EdTech coach at Hong Kong International School. It's my second year here, but I've been in a variety of roles with tech and design in Istanbul and Shanghai and Mumbai before that.
We have a real global cohort coming together here. I'm excited about how we're I know who's coming next, so I'm ready to take us around the other side of the planet. Diana, can you introduce yourself, please?
Sure. Hi, I'm Diana Beabout. So I have been coaching off and on for the last 7-8 years. I taught or worked in some international schools in China and Qatar as EdTech coach, innovation coach. The names varied. I'm currently in the Denver metro area in the United States in Colorado. I moved back. I'm currently working as an EdTech consultant at a district in the Denver metro area. And next year I'll be moving into a school-based position. I'm also the academy mentor for the Coach Micro Credential, and I'm also co-facilitating a Coattail course right now. So Yay. Lots of stuff going on.
Thank you, Diana. And last but not least, Joel, can you tell us about where you currently are, what you currently do?
Sure. Yeah. So Joel Bevins. I'm the elementary school curriculum coordinator at the International School of Panama. And, before moving into this role, this is year 3, I was based in Luxembourg. I had 6 years at the International School of Luxembourg. And before that, out of London, UK. Currently, I am also Coattail 12 cohort, just finishing up. And so they just submitted their final projects yesterday. So I'm looking forward to spending the week unpacking those with them. So yeah, excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for those lovely introductions. when you have done it well, when you have seen it done well in other schools, what were pieces that made you kind of say, aha, I need to bring that back to my school? It might be something that you've already mentioned here, but I want to give that opportunity to be like, oh, this is a thing that I'm building a coaching program. This is what I should consider. Or I'm currently a coach. This is something I should consider. Or, we're going into building our coaching program and it's getting bigger and more complex, let's say. These are things I have to consider. So what are those like kind of aha, ooh, that's something that I need to bring, maybe even as an individual coach, oh, that's something I need to bring into my coaching repertoire. And Joel, I'm going to call on you. I'm sorry. I can tell you're thinking about it.
No, it's a good question. I was thinking about it. I think maybe the biggest thing for me is just knowing knowing how people can get in touch with you and how they can get in touch with you. I just think that clear communication, I think, is a crucial thing. I think when it worked really well when we were in Luxembourg, and I was sort of working more as a thinking coach with coaches of thinking and that idea. But just what we were very transparent with our actions, and we were very transparent in sort of how we could be found. And so people would email us, people would be able to text us, people could write a note on a board. We set up availability for ourselves in rooms and spaces outside of classrooms, not just in an office. I just think, that clear communication, is clear guidelines of who we are and why we're doing it, I think is important. And it sort of came out a little bit earlier, but that idea of like, well, how is this improving learning, or how are we improving learning? I love that question always to frame any piece of coaching or any piece of really conversations really we're having in schools is like, this needs to be improving learning. Otherwise, it's not really a conversation. And whether that's a curriculum focus or whether that's like a tech focus, is like, how is this actually making things a little bit better than it was previously? So how are we redefining it? So communication, but reflection, I thought, built into it.
That's wonderful. That is awesome. Thank you so much. I know I totally put you on the spot. Maybe Diana had a moment to think of something, some kind of aha moment. I'll call on Diana and then Amy and then Ryan, and then we'll just kind of wrap up with a little easy question.
So I was thinking about what Joel said, and we haven't really talked about it much, and particularly in the EdTech coaching world, how do we collect data and evidence to show that that we are making an impact? If you're a math coach or a literacy coach, there's assessments and things that can help build, this is working, this isn't working, we need to focus on this type of thing. So finding ways, and there are ways to how is the coach's impact, what evidence do we have? And that's about setting goals and how we can measure things. And that's not always, particularly in the ed tech coach world, that's not been, I think, addressed as much as far as how can we show that maybe through anecdotal evidence or that type of thing. So I think finding ways to, one, you have to have the goals, and then how to show some measurement in that, and to reflect that, also that reflection piece that Joel mentioned, reflecting on what worked, what didn't, where are there are areas of growth as well. So I think that's one thing I've seen when talking with some coaches who are in some schools where they do have methods of even with innovation or learning code, depending on, again, we can talk all about different titles, but those roles, and that's part of building that confidence with the staff as well, is like, here's what they're here to do, and here's how we know that that's happening. I think that's a piece that we could have a whole other conversation about, but to bring that up as well.
Yeah, that's actually exactly what kind of popped into my mind as well, was just when our coaching team actually went through our end of year goal reflection for our own goal that we set at the start of the year. And we started going through all the evidence that we had completed, X, Y, and Z components. We were actually kind of floored and really honestly quite impressed at the work that we accomplished this year. And each of us individually said we've probably done more for learning this year than any other year as a coach. And part of it is having that team. In the past, a lot of people on the team have worked in isolation in other schools or in other roles. So there is benefit to having a team, but then it's taking that evidence of all we've done this year and being able to show the impact. I think that's really huge. And one thing we really focused on this year was being visible. There was a bit of that misconception that Kim mentioned of teachers thinking that, what are the coaches doing? In home learning, all the coaches stepped it up big time, and we took over the home learning process essentially, and we created the website, and we created the learning grids, and we created the lesson plans so that teachers were able to just focus on each day and the moment with their kids. And when we started this school year and we shifted that process back towards the teacher ownership of the lesson planning, there was a little initial pushback of like, what are those coaches doing? So I think being visible this year, having that faculty meeting, there were things we did as a team. We created a coaching website, which was our own accountability for thinking through all the pieces that we needed to be able to answer to. What is our belief? What is our vision? What is our philosophy? What is our approach? And really being seen leading learning in learning labs, but also being seen learning. We held a lot of school-wide coaching meetings where we were digging into different texts and different coaching resources and just learning in physically visible places and sharing that learning as well. And then creating like our coaching newsletter where we highlighted learning that was happening across the division. I think when you look at the evidence of our goal reflection and you think about all those pieces that we did intentionally to make ourselves visible, it just, it really, really is that aha moment of like, oh, wow, we actually got a lot done this year. And it was thanks to our coaching team's, goal and work forward in that. But just the documentation of it can be a really important step for an individual or a team, I think, in coaching.
It's hard to go last. Everybody, I'm like scribbling down notes and listening to what everybody's saying, and I end up forgetting what the original question was because you've given me so much other stuff to think about.
Just what makes it successful? What have you seen that makes it successful that may have been like an aha moment for you? But whatever you say is going to be great.
Hey, thanks. I think it is just that collecting the same things, kind of collecting the data and the evidence and working with admin to show like, all right, here's what it is. And I even wrote down, it might not be the most eloquent, but like educating the admin on what this is. If they're not completely bought in, or if it's a new program or you're trying to build a program, I think it's important that you're showing what coaching is and how it works and what it does. Whether it is, like you said earlier, whether it's anecdotal or hard data, just sharing that, here's what's happening, see how it's successful, those sorts of things.
Absolutely. That celebration piece, I think, is actually like, I know we're talking about documentation, but there's also that element of like celebration. This great thing happened, not just to your admin, but also to the rest of the faculty. Like this project happened and the teacher has all the celebration. There's not about the coach, it's about the teacher. But, word gets out that this is what helped me get there as I worked with Ryan, or I worked with Amy, or I worked with Diana, or I worked with Joel. I had one thing I was thinking about too, as you all were talking, and this is going to sound very small in comparison to all the things that you all have said. But one of the things that I think has been an aha moment for me in the last, I would say like 6 months, which I know maybe sounds kind of crazy because I have been a coach for a really long time, but I had a moment of connection between coaching and like running my business. And it was like, bing in my brain. And that word is consistency. And I think when coaching programs are successful, it's when the experience that teachers have with coaches is consistent and reliable, and they know what to expect from the coaching process, and they can consistently expect that from any and every coach that they work with. And I think about that so much because I think as coaches, we are like usually so passionate about learning, so passionate about adapting and adjusting that we don't always think about the fact that teachers' time is limited. They need to know what they're getting into with you, and they need to feel like they've had success. It's not about the like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to work with you. Let's see how amazing we can make this thing. No, it's about like, let's make this experience consistent. And maybe that is in the cycle that you use, the language that you use, the way that you communicate and get together, and the way that teachers connect with you, and the experience that they have in the coaching conversation. Maybe even the documentation is consistent. But this concept of consistency, so teachers and school leaders know what to expect in the coaching process, I think is something that is easily overlooked, especially if there's more than one coach and there's no coaching program and they all work a little bit differently. But then it like scales up the more people you have, right? So yeah, that's my 2 cents on that topic. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. If you are ready to leverage technology to create a student-driven, innovative, and authentically connected learning environment, please join us for our next cohort of CoTail. All educators are welcome in our CoTail community, whether you're currently in the classroom, a specialist or learning leader, a coach, or a school administrator. CoTail will engage and empower you to bring new and innovative learning strategies to life in your school community. Registration for our next global cohort opens on the 18th of October and closes on the 14th of November. We facilitate only one cohort each year so we can create connected, collaborative, and community-driven global cohorts. Now is your chance to be part of the global movement to transform learning for all students. Become a co-tailer today. Head over to cotail.com to find out more. Here at Eduro, we provide customized online professional learning for educators at the intersection of technology, coaching, and leadership. Our mission is to empower the relentless learner in you to embrace your inner leader and make a bigger impact in your school setting. Join our Coach Better Facebook group and connect with us on social media at Eduro Learning for more great resources at the intersection of technology, coaching, and leadership. Thank you so much for joining us for today's episode, and we'll see you next time.